What is up, guys? Random Money here. We're gonna be doing the pick'ems for knockout stage. Group stage didn't go too well. I think the Western teams kind of underperformed a little bit. Obviously, no NA teams made it out. EU teams, all three made it out. So I guess you'd say that's kind of an overperformance. But I do think the G2 kind of underperformed, so that left me a little bit worried. But at least Splyce and Fnatic made it out, and the Korean teams, they showed up. They showed up really in a big way. So I think we got to talk about the group stage and who I thought were the best teams coming out of the group stage. So I think that right off the bat, best team in group stage was SKT. In my opinion, they were the best team. They had the hardest group, and they made it kind of look easy. So I got to give them as the best team. Second best team, and I know Korean bias, I guess. Griffin. I mean, if you beat G2, you got to be good. And they looked amazing. In that second week, it looks like whatever demons they had, whatever issues they had going on with their team, they've resolved them. They look phenomenal right now. So I got to give it to Griffin as the number 2 team coming out of groups. And number 3 team, surprise, surprise, Damwon. Damwon, number 3 team. In my opinion, they topped Group D. They were able to outperform Team Liquid and Invictus Gaming, so I have to give them as the number 3 team. Number 4 team, it starts getting hard because you would think that I'd say FunPlus because they were the team that got the number 1 in Group B, but Group B was so easy that I'm kind of leaning more towards G2 as the number 4 team coming out of the group stage. So I think I'll say, yeah, G2 is number 4. FunPlus will be number 5. Number 6 is kind of a toss-up, I think, between Invictus and Fnatic. I'll go with my Western bias and say Fnatic 6, Invictus 7, Splyce 8. That said, I'm not necessarily going to go with those picks for the actual World Pick'ems, because I think that certain teams will improve over time, and I obviously have my own biases. I'm definitely got a Western bias. So that is definitely going to be influencing me. But straight up, first matchup, Griffin versus Invictus Gaming. I think that with how good Griffin has been playing, they are the favorites. Invictus Gaming obviously can perform. They've got Rookie, they've got the Shy. The problem is that the rest of the team hasn't looked amazing. I guess JackeyLove's looked pretty good, but I just don't know if they've got the same level across the board that they had last year. So I think Griffin is probably going to win this one if they play the way they did in week 2. My guess is that it'll probably be like a 3-1 victory would be probably the most likely, but it could go, 3-0 or 3-2 depending on how each team shows up. FunPlus Phoenix versus Fnatic. I think this one is the hardest one for me to judge. I want to believe in Fnatic. I think that they started off really slow, and it seems like they're improving. But FunPlus is kind of the same way. They looked pretty bad week 1, and it seems like they're improving too. And it's kind of hard to gauge who's going to improve more during the off time. I think it's probably more likely that FunPlus pulls it out, but I'm gonna let my Western bias show. I'm gonna say Fnatic wins 3-2 on that one. And yeah, cross my fingers that Fnatic is able to edge out FunPlus. But I think it's probably going to be a pretty close game, or a pretty close match regardless. SKT versus Splyce. Congrats on Splyce making it out. I know people are trying to draw parallels towards like Misfits against SKT. I don't think it's going to be that close. I think SKT is going to win. I'm hoping that Splyce makes it competitive, but I think that you've got to say that SKT is a massive, massive favorite in order to move on to the semifinals. And then the final one, Damwon versus G2. This is another one that's really tough for me. G2 has looked, they were one of the favorites coming in, but they're looking so hit or miss in the group stage. Damwon has been looking really strong. They were able to top their group, but I feel like there's no way it can end in quarters for G2. I just have to believe. Maybe it's a little bit more on emotions rather than logic, but I have to believe that this G2 team has the chance to win Worlds right now. And I find it really hard to believe that they go out in quarters despite how good Damwon is. So I'm going to say G2 pulls it out clutch, winds up winning 3-2 against Damwon Gaming. That puts us to the semifinals where you have Griffin versus Fnatic. As much as I love an underdog story, and as much as I want Fnatic to win and go to the finals again for the second year, I think Griffin's going to win this one. They seem like they're so strong right now. I think Fnatic has a chance for an upset, and I will be rooting for them to upset Griffin, just like I'll be rooting for them against FunPlus Phoenix. But I think that if I was a betting person, I'd have to say that Griffin is more likely to win. And then for SKT versus G2, this is like the epic showdown in my mind. Like, this should be the finals in my mind. Unfortunately, they're on the same side of the draw. And in this one, G2 obviously won MSI 3-2. But I feel like SKT is better than they were at MSI. And I'm not sure G2 is better than they were at MSI. And I feel like that's going to be enough to actually give SKT the edge. I will be rooting for G2. I will be hoping that they go for the upset. But I just can't vote against SKT. They've been looking so amazing recently. So I think it's going to be an all-Korean final. I know that we wanted this year to be the storyline to be the Rise of the West. Unfortunately, it looks like it's more going to be Return of the King. It's going to be Return of the Koreans. I think this is probably the most likely of the possible pick'ems. Though I will be rooting for G2 and Fnatic and Splyce. I'll be rooting for all of the Western teams, hoping that they advance as far as they can. But I think that most likely it's going to be Griffin versus SKT in the finals. And we all know what happens in Griffin versus SKT finals. SKT has so far not been beaten by Griffin in a best of 5, and I think that it's more likely that SKT will reclaim their throne, be a 4-time world champion. So I know this is not what people want. I'll probably get a lot of people booing me for that, but I think that this is the most likely outcome. I will be hoping for upsets, but as of right now, this is what I have as my my picks. You guys can agree or disagree all you want, and try to convince me otherwise. Try to convince me. I want you to convince me that Splyce is going to upset SKT. I want you to convince me that G2 is going to win it all. I want you to convince me that Fnatic is going to make the finals. I want to see those type of comments. I want to see that love for the Western teams. So leave them in the comment section below, or hit me up on Discord and tell me why I'm wrong and why the Western teams are going to win it all this year. I'd be happy to hear that. But yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium, signing off.